Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking leagues and game modes. This is part 3 of a 5-part DC Dark Legion Global Launch Quick Start Guide. Now this game is billed as sort of a strategy game and it has a heavy PvP focus. So you want to make sure that you join a solid league that has plenty of people who participate, and you want to make sure that you understand all the league events, all the individual participation events as well, so that you can develop a solid roster. Now first, let's talk about your league. When you first start playing the game, you're going to have the opportunity to join a league. And at first, it's probably going to be difficult for you to be able to join a league that has advanced rosters and experienced players. But eventually, once you get your footing, once you get past the first few levels in the game, you really want to start reaching out to the community and finding a group of people that you can play the game with, especially if you're someone who wants to play competitively. And there are a lot of people who post in league recruitment channels on the Fun Plus Discord. Well, I should say the DC Dark Legion Discord. There's recruitment posts and multiple other Discord servers. Unstable Gamer has that. I don't know if I have that in my server, but if you're looking for a league and you want to pop into my server and ask, I can probably get you in touch with someone. Now, there are a couple of league-specific game modes in the game right now, and we'll probably spend most of our time talking about those towards the end of the video whenever I talk about vehicle combat. But I think a couple of the things I want to highlight before I start getting into some of the various game modes is some ways that you can participate with your league and make sure that your league is on the right track and growing at a good pace. And the first thing is technology. So your technology is going to be split between construction, resources, and combat. And the entire league is going to be able to participate with some of these. I can show you how it works. If I select this research boost, you can see that I have the ability to contribute via gem donations or via dollar donations. Now, you want to be very careful not to do the gem donation function unless you're a spender, because it will eat up those gems very quickly. Typically, I just do my $20 donations and then I wait for that to fill back up and I do it again. You can typically do it a few times throughout the day if you're able to check. But you can just hold hard press here. You can see I'm getting some critical hits and 2x. Basically, that's part of your the research tree. You'll be able to get a few extra resources or a few extra donations. I think we finally maxed out our combat. This one I think is the most important for early leagues starting out. Try to get your combat up. Now, I believe, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that all of these, the combat percentages, so like you'll get additional percentages on HP, attack, etc. I believe for your league research, that is ship combat. You can see that all these icons have ships. If you go into, and we'll talk about this in the next part of the series, part 4, but in your bat cave, like your research lab, all those things that you're researching for combat would apply to champions themselves. The other important thing here, and there's not enough for it to show up, typically down here on this league button, you'll see it'll come up with a little extra button that you can click on where you can help people. But otherwise, you can go into your league page, go to help, click help all. You want to be doing that on a regular basis as well, because I don't know the exact conversion rate, but I'm pretty sure that each time someone clicks help, it takes like a minute off of whatever you're asking for help with in the Batcave. So it's not insignificant, especially early on. You can see you can obtain or claim chests. Now, these typically don't have a lot in them. So I have 600 to claim. We claim that, and we got very small amount of dollars and alloys. And then you can also claim these sort of bigger chests as well. So I always try to do that. There is a league store, so you get this currency, the league contribution resource, and you're able to buy some things in the store. We'll talk about that more in the economy video, which is coming up fairly soon. But you have the ability to buy certain resources, and I typically recommend that you stick to buying anvils or quantum components, mainly quantum components out of here, but we'll talk about that more. So war is really just your coordinated assault screen, and we'll talk about that later in this video during the vehicle combat section. but that is sort of a league event or a thing that you can do with your league mates. Territory, and we lost our city, so we don't have anything here. But territory is basically when you do Guardian Challenge. Again, we'll talk about that later in the video. But when you do Guardian Challenge, if you can obtain a city and you become a city guardian, you're going to get some extra funds for that. And then obviously member list, you can go in and see who your officers are. You can see who's kind of running things, and you can see yourself compared to the rest of the roster. Definitely a few league officer functions that you can do in here. I think they're going to be adding some more functionality for managing leagues. I think there's some issues with, like if you have a league like chief commander who goes inactive, it's kind of difficult to take over the league from that person. But yeah, that's a basic overview of how the leagues work. And the next thing that I want to go into, and I thought about saving this for last, but I think it's probably better just to get this out earlier in the video. The S.O.N network has, I think, the best game modes in the game. And, again, we'll talk about the vehicle combat, but it is not my favorite. But yeah, so your S.O.N is going to be kind of your hub for doing your daily activities. Like if you have to skip anything, I hate to say this, but just if you're kind of strapped for time, you don't have a lot of time to play the game and you can't really min-max, don't worry about the don't worry about the vehicle-based combat game modes. Just focus on your S.O.N, and I think if you just do that, you're going to progress your roster fairly well. The first thing here is your Meta Brawl. Now, I mean, this one there's not much to say about. Meta Brawl is your basic 5 versus 5 PvP format. You do actually get to control your champions here. So, you definitely want to be doing you get 5 attempts per day, and you want to be doing that because you get quite decent rewards. You get a decent amount of gems as well as your Meta Brawl tokens just from doing attempts. Like, doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you're going to get, let's see, 25 gems, and you get about 250 Meta Brawl tokens just for doing that. Now, your rewards for whichever tier you're in are actually quite nice. I'm up in the master group now. They just added this, and it's sort of a cross server. So like your first 4 groups are going to be just people on your server. Then when you get to master group, you're going to be fighting people from all across the game, which is, for me, I think is quite nice because you get to face the higher end. You get to see where you're at against the entire gaming community versus just your server. But a lot of people have made, I think, a valid criticism that this should have been a separate mode. Like you have your mode that you're fighting against just your server, and then you have another mode that you're fighting against against the entire game. But at any rate, you do get more rewards the higher up in the groupings you go. You can see that it doesn't matter where you finish, you're going to get the exact same amount of gems, which I think is quite nice for free-to-play players. You do get substantially more of the Meta Brawl tokens for being higher up in placement, and you're also going to get a nice little frame for being number 1. And this one, in the new master group that they just made, the number 1 or the top 5 players in the game are going to get a very special frame. They do go away. You don't get to keep them, which is kind of lame. I think it's nice if you're able to get to that rank just once, you should get the frame forever, but that's another thing entirely. Now, you do get promotion rewards for the first time that you move up to a new group. If you move down and then back up again, you're not going to get these again. But again, it's a quite nice amount of resources for moving up. So you are incentivized to do this mode because of that. I mean, that's really it. There is a Meta Brawl store where you're able to buy some items in here as well. I've talked about this before, and I will cover it more in depth in the economy guide, but quite a few things in here that you can get to improve your account. And the last thing I'll say about this mode is you do want to set your defense. And I think it'll force you to do this once when you first start playing the game. But you definitely want to make sure that you are setting a defense for your team. I probably need to adjust this a little bit. I was messing around with the viability of some of the Justice League Dark characters on defense. But definitely set a defense because that's what everyone else is going to be fighting against you on. And you do lose, like gain and lose resources, or I should say points, based on who attacks you. You can actually view that up here. We'll skip over Umbral Rift because that's going to be part of the vehicle based combat section. Anti-Crime Network. This one is a PvE game mode where you're able to earn resources that are going to be very pivotal in upgrading your champions. So, and also, I guess, base research. So you've got your chips, you got your alloys, XP, and biostimulators. And you do unlock these over time. So like some of these you're not going to have access to immediately. I think you start out with XP and then you unlock the others over time. But in my opinion, the most important resource early game, especially if you don't spend, is going to be your biostimulators. XP is definitely going to be a crunch to start out with, but you really want to focus, probably I would say between war rooms 5 to 7 up and all the way up until 25 to the 27 range. You're going to be focusing on the biostims because you want to make sure that you're able to take your champions up to the next tier every time you upgrade a war room. So do not skimp on these challenges. Try to make sure that you're constantly, trying to challenge like the highest tier you can get as you upgrade your champions, so that when you raid this, that you're going to get more resources out of it. Next thing to talk about is Training Simulator, and this is one of the best ways, I think, to kind of see who the best people on the server are, because there's a nice little leaderboard here where you can see who's got the highest level in here. But it's also, I think, a really good resource for you to see how your champions can do. So you're able to kind of test. You can obviously you can't go back to older to like the prior levels, but as you go up, it's going to get progressively more difficult. And you'll be able to kind of do a little bit of testing in your account to try to figure out who would be the best for certain approaches. And this is definitely a mode that takes a lot of strategy, because they kind of put different, you'll have like 5 Batmans, or they'll do 2 Shazams in the front, and then, a bunch of, I don't know, Deathstrokes in the back or something like that. And it's very difficult. Like, it's kind of a puzzle to figure out who would be the best people on your team to use, who you should have in the front versus the back. Left versus right in the front. I mean, it's very involved, and I think a lot of people like this game mode for that reason. Now, you have kind of the basic training simulator, and once you get to a certain war room level, you will unlock some of these additional. It's called the Realm of Fate, and these are kind of, you have to have a different set of champions to be able to even participate in each one of these. So you have like your Legion of Doom, your Arkham's Most Wanted. You have your Justice League. You have one that's for Metahuman and Energy, and then you have one that's for Weapon Master. So definitely some fun combinations that you can do in here, and it helps you learn the different characters and the different tags and kind of how they interact with one another. So, and it's also a nice way to earn some additional resources as well. Training Simulator, definitely make sure you're constantly pushing that. At least every few days you're pushing as far as you can go, because you do get a lot of stimulators here, which is going to help you with upgrading your champions. And then you're also, the higher your training simulator level, the more XP you're going to earn over time. You can see that you can obtain this here. And then every 10 levels that you clear, you're going to get a couple of blue Motherbox cubes, and you're going to be getting a bunch of green Motherbox cubes as you go as well. So the next game mode is Combat Cycle. And Combat Cycle, they haven't added all of the, I guess, the Dark Knights in here to fight. I think there's still a few that are just kind of I think they're still Devastators, but essentially you're going to have 7 different bosses, 1 boss for every day. Each day is also going to give you a different resource. So there's days where you're going to be getting Motherbox cubes, you're going to get gems, you're going to get your stimulators, you're going to get AC/DC shards. There's, quite a lot of resources that you're able to get here. Now, the downside is at some point you're going to hit, it's around milestone 200, maybe a little bit higher than that, until they add more levels. You're going to, and a lot of whales are already hitting this threshold, but you're not going to get any more resources from it. Until you get to that point, you typically do get a few additional resources each week as you upgrade your roster and get better. Sometimes you're probably not going to get anything certain weeks because you're not able to push past where you were before. But theoretically, as you upgrade your champions, if you're using a good team comp for that mode or for that day, you should be able to get where you need to go. A little trick for people who maybe are a little bit newer to the game is you can kind of copy what other people are doing. So you can look in the area where you're typically scoring, maybe a little above that. And, or if you're outside of the top 100, just look at some of the teams that are towards the bottom of that. And you can get an idea for what you might be able to do with your roster. One thing I'll note on Combat Cycle is we are looking at making day-specific guides or tier lists for Combat Cycle to help give you an idea what characters would do best on those days. And maybe we'll find a couple of tips that we could throw on infographics to help you with that as well. I'm going to skip over Dark Legion because that, again, is basically the coordinated assault system from your league. So you can kind of get there multiple different ways. I can show you what it looks like. Obviously, you can just join those coordinated assaults from here. And then the last thing to talk about here in S.O.N is the Darkest Timeline. Now, I have done a live stream on this. I'm hoping to do some more live streams in the future. We'll see how my schedule works out. I've been very busy with work. But I have a couple of different videos discussing Darkest Timeline. I'll probably make some more in the future. I really enjoy doing the runs here, and maybe I can showcase, doing runs for all the different tags so that you kind of can see my thought process with who to pick and how to run through that. Again, I'm not the best at this game mode. There are some folks who are way better than me, but I have been enjoying doing those videos. So let me know if you want to see more of that. I can just jump in here so you can see if you're a newer player, if you haven't seen my other videos, but you have you can start. I'm out of attempts right now, but definitely go back and check out one of those other videos to see a little bit more about this game mode. You do unlock it, I believe, at War Room 15, so don't worry about it immediately. But definitely once you have it unlocked, you can come back and we can go through how you can get better. You have your timeline journal where you can collect your rewards. You can see what kind of missions that you can participate in. A lot of regular challenges, which will be great for you starting out. And when you get better, you can go in and do some of these extreme trials. But that's about it for the S.O.N. Again, I think S.O.N. offers some of the best game modes in the game, and that's where my enjoyment of the game comes from. I enjoy those game modes where you're able to interact with your champions and come up with, interesting and fun team compositions. And I also enjoy the kind of theory crafting of all the character kits. What we're about to talk about has nothing to do with that, really, when it comes down to it. Obviously, it's important to level your champions up to be able to participate in vehicle combat, but the way I guess the AI or the way the game handles vehicle combat, you really don't, like, your skills on your characters don't matter, and there's not really a lot of skill to it. I guess there's definitely some strategy to vehicle combat, but it's not in the sense that I would consider strategy, I suppose. So let's talk about coordinated assaults while we're here. You can initiate coordinated assaults. You have 5 daily that you can attempt yourself, but you can join unlimited of other people's coordinated assaults. So like we can join Sprayman's here, and typically, you can auto deploy. I always kind of try to get the very least I can. All right, so we join that one. Now we can initiate our own, and I always do 5 minutes. You want to do them as quickly as possible. Typically, if you do 60 minutes, it's just going to take forever for people to join in on it. A lot of people just want to get their rewards and cycle back. Now, you can pick different ones of these. When you first start out, like in new guilds, you're going to have very easy ones that you can do, but we're a little bit more advanced right now, so I can do this. I'll go ahead and initiate that. You do have to select a ship, but basically, this mode, like once the timer goes off, I just noticed that Sprayman had this one for 60 minutes. So anyway, once the timer goes off, your character or your team and I guess if 4 other people join you, are going to fight against whatever the boss is. And it's kind of like a measure your power against their power, and that's how it decides the match. There's not really a lot to it. But those give you a decent amount of rewards, and you also have to do them for daily quests as well. And I think there's like Path of Justice and some of the other early on events in the game where you really want to be able to you're going to need to do coordinated assaults for that. Moving into another game mode that's similar to coordinated assaults, actually can be confusing sometimes, but Umbral Rift, you can schedule it multiple times, or I should say you can schedule it multiple times per week. So it's kind of a mode that you can participate in multiple times. And this is where, other than purchasing quantum components from the League store, this is where you're going to be getting quantum components. So it's very important to try to participate in this. My league's always doing it around lunchtime or right after, and I've always got calls for work, so I'm not able to participate. But it's definitely something that you want to try to participate in if you can. But essentially, the way this mode works is maybe we can look at the rules. It doesn't have the pictures. But essentially, you have a boss that you need to fight against, so it has a certain amount of health, and you're just doing coordinated assaults where you're putting you're picking a ship from the list of ships that you have, and you're picking 5 of your characters, and you're sending them off to battle, and people can join in with you, and it basically calculates a certain amount of points based on how powerful your roster is. So your roster progress kind of does matter for Umbral Rift to an extent. But anyway, it's also a game mode that lasts for about an hour, and I just think that's way too long for the amount of rewards that you get. Like, let's see if we can look in here. What I shoot for personally is to get 7.5 million, because if you get 7.5 million, you get the 1 quantum component. In order to get to 2 quantum components, you've got to get 58 million. Now, my roster can probably get close to that now if I sat there for the entire hour. Sometimes I just don't have the opportunity to do that. But if you get a relatively decently developed roster, at some point you'll be able to go in and just join about 3, 4, 5 coordinated assaults. You'll get your 7.5 million, and if you have to go, you're at least guaranteed that 1 quantum component. So there's also league damage rewards. So if you get to a certain level, you're going to get more rewards based on your multiplier. And you can see this goes up pretty high. We're about halfway through. But it's not an insignificant amount of things that you'll get. You get a decent amount of alloys for this one, so that's nice because you can upgrade your armory. All right, so the next vehicle-based game mode that we're going to talk about is Guardian Challenge. And this is another game mode that I've made a video on in the past. So if you want a little bit more of a deep dive into how Guardian Challenge works, definitely go back and take a look at that video. We can jump in and take a look at a few things, though. This is a game mode where all the participants, so all the different leagues that decide to go for a specific city, are going to have kind of a home base on a map. And also on that map, there's going to be a primary city, and then there will be a handful of towns, and then a bunch of productive buildings surrounding those towns and cities. And the concept is that each player who participates will have a certain amount of squads. I mean, essentially you're doing coordinated assaults, but you're specifying, I'm going to go to whatever town or the city or productive building. I'm going to take my squad and I'm going to try to bring as many people as I can with me. Obviously you can fill up 5 squads the same as a coordinated assault, and you're just trying to take as many strategic objectives as you can in order to earn points. I've been vocally annoyed, I would say, with this game mode primarily because it happens on Saturdays and it takes about an hour to play the full mode out. They actually, for the longest time, you pretty much knew who was going to win after the first 10 to 20 minutes playing the map. Essentially, as soon as someone took the city, if that person had a few whales who could just park their rosters on the city, it was impossible to take the city back. it's pretty much over. And I think that's still the case, but typically there is a fight for second, third, fourth, usually between second and third, to try to figure out who is kind of, I guess, placement for the end of the match. And so they actually just added a new feature where towards the end of the match, the last 10 or 15 minutes maybe, you can get additional points for taking certain objectives, certain towns and the city. So, they're trying to push people to stay in the game mode as long as possible. I think that they should probably shorten it to a 30-minute period where you don't have that lull in between, because for the most part, again, you're going to know who has already won the match in the first half of the match anyway. So if they kind of shortened it to where you have this 15-minute section where you probably know who has already won the map, and then the last 15 minutes is sort of for placements, or if it was a pretty close match, you still have a chance to win. So if they're going to try to force you to stay in the game mode, they should do it in a kind of a shortened period. But anyway, I mean, that's kind of the basics of Guardian Challenge. It's, again, another game mode where you're not really using your roster. You're using, obviously you're using the power of your roster, but it's ship-based combat, and it all kind of happens behind the scenes. You're not really, it's a very passive way to play the game. So there is a lot. Some people say there's no strategy to stuff like Guardian Challenge. I think there's a lot of strategy to the Guardian Challenge game mode. It's just kind of a pen and paper type strategy, I suppose. Like it's kind of at the higher levels, like your officers and the people who care the most about this game mode are probably going to be the ones trying to coordinate and figure out how to make things work. But, it's more of a coordination effort than it is, actually utilizing your roster. So for that reason, myself and a lot of others kind of get a little bit annoyed with the mode, but definitely something that you want to participate in if you can. It's important to get your league to the point where they have a city. At one point, we were defending two different ones. I know there's some folks out there who have, probably 5 or more cities that they're defending on a regular basis. Next mode is Checkmate Crisis. And Checkmate Crisis is really, there's not really much to talk about here. It's just another kind of idle game mode for you to earn a few extra resources, for your league to earn some more resources. It's definitely more ship-based combat. You do get a decent amount of rewards. It's kind of nice to get the purple mother box keys, and you're going to get a decent amount of your league currency. But this is a mode where whenever it pops up for you to register, it's going to come up on the right-hand side of your screen, and you just essentially pick a few of your ships and kind of like set a roster, and then you enter, and you're pretty much done. So it's a very easy way to earn a few additional resources over time. And there are some ways for you can go in and kind of like see the results and like look at all the fights. So there's like a little replay feature. Won't play this forever, but you can see kind of how it works, where you're taking the best rosters from each league. They're pitted against each other, and it keeps kind of doing a simulated battle based on the individual characters in each of those rosters. And it also kind of, I guess, uses like a multiplier based on your ship's power as well. I had a note here to mention league mobilization. It's not really a like vehicle-based combat or anything like that. It's really just spending money. But basically, and we're, I guess, matching right now, but it's essentially you're going to be given certain achievements or like quests that you can do to earn points. Those points, add up, and then you're able to claim certain resources. And it's you have an individual track, but you also have your league track. So it's kind of a mode that's meant for the spenders in your league to try to earn most of those points. There are some things that you can do that don't really require spending. I just wanted to quickly mention this mode because it's kind of a league-based event. And then the last thing, and this is sort of a last-minute add-on to this part of the guide, but I want to briefly mention 3v3 strategic challenge. So this is a mode that some of us were curious exactly how it was going to work. We've been able to test it and kind of see exactly how it plays out. And I guess I could do a challenge really quick so you can see. You're going to get these tickets, and this is an individual, like personal mode. It's not a league-based mode, but it's sort of I would consider it almost a hybrid ship and squad combat. It's very similar, if you're familiar with it, in the world map. And we'll talk about this in one of the upcoming videos, but it's very similar to the infiltrations, where it's definitely kind of it's utilizing your ship, but it's also using your it's doing like a sim battle between the two squads. So if we just jump in, and this mode has been kind of buggy, so I don't know if it's going to act right for us, but we'll just do this one here in the middle. And you can see that I've already selected, so this is what my defense looks like, but I'm also using it for offense. And I should have a relatively easy time here. This person is much lower than me, so if I just go ahead and fight that, you can see you actually do get to watch your characters fight. And I was worried that we weren't even going to get this, that it was just going to be similar to some of the other modes like Umbral Rift and Checkmate Crisis. But I think it is nice to be able to at least see your characters fighting, even if you don't get to control them. I think a lot of people play this game on full auto for the most part, so it's not like this is much different than what it would be if you were to actually control your roster. So something to think about. But it's, so we just finished the first round, and it will sim out this one, or actually we can just click this button and it should give us the victory there. Like, if you know you're going to win it, why bother? Even if you know even if you don't know if it's going to be a win, probably quickest just to click that button and opt out. But that's the game mode. I mean, I think I'm a little bit happier with it now that I've been able to play it than I was when it was first announced that it was coming today. One thing that I'm liking is that you're able to obtain a decent amount of rewards by just, flipping through the tiers. I think I've probably obtained this 10 gem reward 7 to 10 times already. So I guess however many tickets I had, it's not an insignificant sum. It's nice to have some additional gem revenue coming in, and I'm definitely not going to turn that down. And this is new. That's a lot of resources for this tier. So you're getting those 5 World Anvil fragments. Very nice. I think that's going to wrap up this video. If you're enjoying this guide series, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And if you're feeling really adventurous, consider joining the channel. I'm really looking forward to growing alongside the community, and I just can't say enough about how much I appreciate each and every one of you who tune in every time I release a video. Definitely excited about the future and looking forward to talking to you whenever I release the next guide.